Hi there. My name is Stan Holt. I am the Senior Advisor with Partners for Impact here in North Carolina. And this is our second little tutorial in our logic model series. And we're going to focus on outputs, outcomes, and actual impact. Remember that this is a series of 5 to 7 minute training videos that really help you build and use logic models for program planning and evaluation. As the series grows, the content may move beyond 7 minutes, but we'll keep it under 10 for sure. Just a reminder, what is a logic model? It's a graphic display of the connections that you have between a program's activities and its intended outcomes. And we're going to really see a great example of this in the training today. Remember that our previous training really talked about how a logic model can be likened to a recipe in making cookies, right? That you need some ingredients. Those are your inputs. You need to do something with those ingredients. You need to mix them, you need to measure them, and you need to bake them. And then it has an outcome associated with it. And that's the pieces of your logic model. It's the things that you need to run your program, the things that you do, and then the outputs are the things that you actually complete. So we want to deepen our thinking here and take this another layer. Outputs is what was done, what you produced. In the cookie example, it's 30,000 cookies or 3 dozen cookies. Excuse me, I'm getting ready to talk about 30,000. But the outcomes really then are about what's the change that is made by your program. And this is where the cookie analogy kind of falls short. We don't get to talk about happy cookie eaters too very, very often, but that's kind of how you would extend that. But really what we're talking about in the difference between outputs and outcomes is this notion that if you complete, say, a literacy training program, say you have 30 students complete, 5 hours of training in a month, right? That's what was completed. The second piece, though, is what's the change in actual reading skills of those particular students. And that's your outcome. So it's really taking the next step, and you'll hear particularly funders, you'll hear people who do this particular kind of work say, so what? So what difference does your program make? And the difference is not so much the count of who accomplishes stuff, but the change that actually occurs for those who are experienced in the program. And this is where you start getting your full logic model, the graphic representation of the inputs, the activities, the outputs, and the outcomes, right? So this is the process by which you create your logic model. And I want to then add onto this the notion of impact. This takes those outcomes yet a step further. And it says, are your outcomes really the thing that's responsible for the community change, right? To what degree do you and your literacy program change literacy rates, right? So if we think about this again, say we have 30 students who complete a literacy curriculum, right? And then there's a certain percentage of those who actually improve their literacy scores. And this is where you're going to really need to figure out how you measure the outcomes. And as you kind of move from output to outcome to impact, the measurement factor becomes a lot more difficult. That's okay. It's just a layer of more information and the layer of change that you want to commit to. So you have the outcomes, the percentage of students who improve their literacy, but then the impact is, does that result in increased literacy rates in your community, right? So these impact evaluations that we oftentimes hear about are really about what's changing at the community level. And at Partners for Impact, we really do believe that there are strong programs that participate and create and use incredible outcomes. And they are just one piece of the community impact that needs to happen in your community. So you may have a great adult literacy program, but maybe what you need is an ESL program that also creates changes in literacy rates in your community. So this is where you begin to really kind of think about how community change happens and how you use logic models to build those things. So what we're going to do in our next session is really think about how do we really structurally fill out a logic model, and then how do we create strong outcomes based on that. So if you have any questions between now and then, please feel free to email me at stan@partnersforimpact.com. Thanks for your time today.